The one thing that makes my neurons fire off is a sexy character that has a good quick swap. And you know what? Zani fits that bill. The sounds alone is already doing something to me. Holy. Zani is a character that thrives with quickswap, even in her normal standard teams. I consider this a must if you're using Spectro Rover with Zani. In this guide, we'll be focused on Zani's performance with Spectro Rover along with a lot of other characters. All of these tips will also apply to the likes of Pheobe, so keep that in mind. My name is Void Enigma, and let's not waste any more time talking about Zani Quickswap. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and let's collapse into the void. Why bother with Rover Zani Quickswap? Well, the calcs on Zani are not incorporating Rover's damage. Rover actually does a significant amount of damage in these teams, when compared to Pheobe, who does literally no damage. She just amps the damage to an insane number. So we will showcase exactly how it works. Firstly, of all the quickswap characters, Zani is unique. She must have Pheobe or Spectrover in the team in order to even function. This is a fundamental must. There's no way around it. So before we start, let's discuss the dynamic of 3 Nightfalls. Now, what Nightfall is Zani's enhanced heavy attack, and I'll be referring it to as such from this point on. It consumes Blaze, and to get that Blaze, you need to apply Spectral Frazzle. When Zani casts her Liberation, she gets 50 Blaze, and that will let you use 1 Nightfall. 1 Nightfall costs 40 Blaze. You need 8 stacks of Spectral Frazzle to use 1 Nightfall. Spectrover applies 8 stacks of Spectral Frazzle with her Liberation and Resonance skill. Pheobe applies 15 stacks of Spectral Frazzle. My god, this is a tongue twister here. Whenever you perform her Liberation and 2 of her enhanced heavy attacks. Zani gets 1 stack of Spectral Frazzle when you cast her full Resonance skill, whether you perform a perfect counter or a full Resonance skill. So, in order to get 3 Nightfalls, you need a ton of Spectral Frazzle. Pheobe gets you there, Rover doesn't, but with quick swapping, you can close that gap. Last tip. High energy regen is vital here because an easy swap into a Liberation can get you a ton of stacks so that you can do another Nightfall from either character. Some tips if you're struggling to understand the quick swapping mechanics. A character completing an action that you started without you having to do anything on that character, and instead you can use that time to use another character, meaning you have 2 characters on the field completing their task. It smooths out gameplay and lets you really clear things so much faster. If you're new to Quickswap, check out this video guide here to learn more and master the mechanics of Wuthering waves. Now let's begin. Let's start with Zani's portion of Quickswap. Her quickswappable moves are her Resonance skill, both the normal and enhanced version, and of course, the Nightfall. So, you can quickswap a Resonance skill as soon as you actually get past the actual guard portion of it. When you perfect counter, swap off, and Zani will continue to hit the enemy. Now that's all fine and dandy, but the most important part is to quickswap these Nightfalls. So remember when we talked about the Blaze? She can easily gain Blaze during her Liberation and extend the amount of Nightfalls that you can do to 3. 3 is the max, and you want to achieve all 3. If you don't, you're literally losing a third of your damage for every Nightfall that you don't successfully do. Additionally, it's important to know how long that her Liberation lasts. With perfect input, you can actually get off 3 Nightfalls and have about, say, 2 to 5 seconds of time to spare to cast this enhanced Liberation, but it's very easy to miss. In this time frame, you want to cast her Liberation for a nice finisher. If you find that you're missing that finisher, then you're spending way too much time on your other characters. Try to use your sub DPS a bit less, or, don't get hit by the boss as much. It's all a learning process, so take it with ease. So what's the process? Well, let's introduce Spectrover. Spectrover has 3 quick swappable moves, but one is very hard to time but still achievable with practice. Firstly, remember to watch out for her forte gauge. You need 1 full bar to use a proper Resonance skill and inflict 2 stacks of Spectral Frazzle. To gain this bar, you can either do a rhythm game with her basic attacks, or an easier way is just to use her heavy attack, so we'll focus on just that one, which meaning that she really only has 2 quick swappable moves. You always want to use the heavy attack, it's just so much better. Now the quick swappable moves are her heavy attack. After you land the Palm Strike, which gives you a full gauge of her forte, then you can easily swap off. Also, dodge counters trigger this as well, so make sure to take advantage of that. It's amazing. And her second quick swappable technique is a resonance skill. You don't have to follow up with the basic attack, but you definitely should because it's giving you way extra damage, so you want to get off both portions. You start the quick swap right as that second portion starts. Alright, I've laid out all the pieces for quick swapping with Zani and Spectro Rover, so let's show it in practice. So starting off, spam your liberation whenever it becomes available. The longer you are holding on to the liberation, then the more energy that you're wasting on your next liberation, so cast it immediately. Alright, when you start off your rotation, what you want to do is get your hold heavy attacks, or you can dodge counter to fill your gauge up. You can quick swap that hold heavy attack and go to your next character to actually get them to fill on their forte, or fulfill whatever conditions that they need to do. In this case, with someone like Shorekeeper, she's going to want to be filling up her gauge so that she can get off her liberation and you can go straight over to Zani to get some damage. Once you have a full gauge, if you've done your liberation and a couple of resonance skills, and you're ready to actually go into combat, and then you're going to go right into Zani. Now it's time to get to work. Zani's liberation comes in prime, and once you cast it, you can start swinging. I want you to notice, as soon as this yellow enhancement appears over your basic attacks, after a single click, Zani is locked in. You can quick swap off, and Zani will perform the entire attack animation. Free from incoming damage, free from interruptions, free as a demon swinging a charged blade in the wind. This is the essence of Zani Quickswap, using this free 1 to 3 seconds to do an action with other characters in between Zani's attacks. So in this time, you can swap to your Rover and use either a resonance skill, or a liberation, or a heavy attack. Resonance skill and liberation add to Zani's blaze, and if you chain enough of them, you'll be able to get Zani's third Nightfall. This is much easier to do if you are using Rover's liberation multiple times. It's pretty amazing to actually get so much extra blaze doing this, and it's quite fun when you get into the rhythm of it. Pheobe Quickswap is much more limited than Spectro because her confession mode has limitations. Firstly, you gain 2 charges every 24 seconds, and you can't refresh that until after 24 seconds. So when you use Zani with Pheobe, and you are lacking the charges to inflict more Spectro Frazzle with Pheobe, then you can easily quick swap into another character to get their gauge filled up or do whatever you need to do with them. You're also more than welcome to simply cast Phoebe's resonance skill, because that will completely immobilize the enemy, and casting your liberation is an option, or if you have the gauge filled by the time you get to Pheobe, you can recast her confession mode. So it functionally works the same as Spectro. After the Nightfall starts, you swap in and cast a few basic attacks and then a heavy attack, or a liberation, or a resonance skill, or you recast confession mode. Don't be scared to swap to your third character as well if none of those options are available. Speaking of third characters, let's talk about Zani's best team, both Pheobe and Spectro. The amount of damage amplification coming from Phoebe's outro in confession mode, as well as Zani's weapon, is insane. Because of this, she not only buffs Zani, but Rover herself. So the team with Zani, Pheobe, and Spectro is actually quite amazing. What's crazier is that this team outperforms Shorekeeper. Like, damn. What you do in this team is essentially combine everything that we talked about before, but this time you can easily swap between Rover and Pheobe to keep up more Frazzle stats. While Zani does her Nightfall, you can swap between the two. When Pheobe is in her downtime, make sure to use Rover to cast the Resonance Liberation and Resonance skill, as well as using Phoebe's heavy attack to get more and more Spectral Frazzle stacks. As long as you get back to Zani without much interruption, you should easily be able to finish it with her Liberation. Now that I've talked about all of her meta teams, you must be wondering, what about the Queen of Quickswap, Changli? Of course you can use Changli with Zani. Of course you can use Carlotta and Zhengliao with Zani. You just gotta remember that Zani has some insane damage mitigation, and her counter negates all damage when perfectly timed, or even if you mistime it, you take about 40% less damage. Additionally, Spectro Rover heals, so the type of teams that we can cook up with Spectro Rover and Zani Quickswapping are incredible. Firstly, being able to get off 3 Nightfalls and her Liberation finisher is tough to do when you have a third character to quick swap. It takes some serious frame perfect actions, but it's definitely phenomenal when you do it. Here's an example of me doing it here with Changli. But remember, it's much easier to do this after the first rotation because you've had some time to build up some Spectro Frazzle stacks. But don't stress about it too much here. It's actually perfect fine to just not get off the third Nightfall stack and just get off 2 instead. Of course, following with a Liberation finisher. Just remember that you're distributing the damage contributions more evenly, so the sub DPS takes a lot of the heavy burden off of Zani's shoulders. Just remember your quick-swappable moves, Zani's Nightfall and Rover's Resonant skill. I got some sample gameplay here of Changli, and if you want to learn more about Changli Quickswap, I got a ton of guides on my channel, so one of them is linked up there, but Zani, Changli, and Spectro felt damn good together. Another great team to try that actually felt even more impressive is Sheng Liao. You gotta love time stop mechanics, and both Rover and him have that baked into their kit. All of the time stop between these 3 characters and the perfect guard really lets you be able to keep dealing damage to the enemy, which contributes to more DPS, and you're a lot safer doing so. You don't really have that great of a healer, but you do have Spectro Rover's Resonance Liberation to fall back on. I can even get off Zani's third Nightfall and a Liberation with this team thanks to the incredible amount of control that you have. Speaking of control, Carlotta is where things get a little weird. You kind of begin to wonder just who should be attacking, but once you realize that Carlotta is an ultimate CC machine, things start to click. Carlotta can easily stop the enemy from moving with a Resonance skill, her forte heavy attack, and even an echo on lesser mobs. Her field time is also significantly lower than most other quick swaps, and she's only really on field to cast her Liberation. Because of this crowd control, you can easily weave in Rover's moves without being interrupted, and you get something like this. You could just cast Carlotta's Liberation after Zani finishes hers to capitalize on more damage, and you're good to go. Easy team. Zani isn't just restrictive, she's demanding, but in return, she gives you one of the smoothest, highest damage quick swap rotations in the game. While Spectro Rover remains a stand-in in her team, she can easily function with a ton of different secondary DPS and clear content. She does want her weapon, at least in this case, but still, it's fun to try all of these quick swap teams. Comment down below what's your favorite and which team you're excited to try, or some crazy combinations that you were able to come up with. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video because that helps me out a ton. We got more Zani content coming, and we'll be talking about Chacona soon too, so stay tuned. This has been Void, and Enigma out.